Do you like unoriginality? How about laziness? Do you like it when a studio takes a property you love and then remakes or adapts it in live action without adding anything new to it and instead decides to just feed off of your nostalgia? Because I sure do. What is up, schmucks? Today, I have a bit of a hot take, because we only do the hottest of hot takes on the RoastTurkey channel, including Big Mouth is shit, Batfleck sucks, Birds of Prey is amazing, and Wonder Woman looks better than Black Widow, but Black Widow will probably be better. Now, I should go ahead and mention this. I don't really give a shit if people disagree with my opinions. That's kind of the joy of having opinions, that they aren't factual, and instead, they're unique across all different kinds of people. With that said, I'm fully aware that I may be crossing a line here. But today's spicy take is that a Last of Us TV series is a dumb idea, or at least the show they're going to make is a dumb idea. But I can't just say something like that without backing it up, so that's what I'm gonna do. Today, I want to talk about why a TV series for The Last of Us is a stupid idea. It's no secret that the majority of video game movies are bad. They range from absolutely atrocious to hilariously bad to just kind of dull and bland and to competent if not good. But let's quickly run down why some of these movies turned out this way. In the cases of Mario Bros, Rampage, Resident Evil, and Street Fighter, the movies deviate too far from the source material to even be recognizable as an adaptation, and on top of that, they're made with cheese instead of substance or quality. Enjoyable on some level, but probably only if you're stoned out of your fucking mind. Assassin's Creed actually had an interesting premise going for it, and we'll talk about that later, but the movie is just horrible. It has bad directing, bad writing, and performances that just feel phoned in. It ruined the movie, and the video game property had nothing to do with it. The 2018 Tomb Raider movie is more or less an adaptation of the 2013 reboot game, but also features a grand amount of differences, enough to make it pretty much its own thing, but it ultimately tells the exact same story. So, the movie comes off as feeling as a not as good and sort of lazy clone of the game. But I kind of like that movie, but I'm also a Tomb Raider shill, so I'm biased. And Sonic was a pretty original idea. It showed a fresh adventure for its character while adapting the basics of the source material into something new and fun. It's a well-made kids movie that most adults can probably enjoy, and that's all the movie needs to be. So how does this relate to The Last of Us and an adaptation of it? Well, that brings me to my next point on how if you've played The Last of Us, you'll be fully aware of its narrative structure, in that it's structured mostly like a film. Yes, video games have story modes and they have campaigns, but none that I've played have ever felt so well structured and beautifully performed and tightly written like that of Naughty Dog's The Last of Us. The game is linear as to not eliminate tension or lose focus with the plot, so without side missions or subplots, it crafts a thoroughly written story surrounding excellently made characters. The game is more or less a movie or a miniseries that a player gets to interact with and experience firsthand. This creates a level of immersion that a TV show or a movie simply cannot achieve. And that's not to degrade movies or TV shows, but because The Last of Us is a video game on that media, it allows for a more personal and raw experience. Now, if you've played The Last of Us, I want you to ask yourself this question. What is there that could be added to the story to make it better? For me, it's nothing. The game checks all the boxes with story structure and top-tier movie quality writing and acting. The Last of Us opens with a cute scene between Joel and his daughter Sarah, followed by a tense sequence of Sarah trying to piece together what's going on as the apocalypse begins. Then an escape sequence that leads to the horrific death of Sarah, and that transitions to Joel 20 years on, and we're lightly filled in on what his life has been like. We meet Tess and become familiar with her and the state of the world at the current moment. After that, we're introduced to Ellie, and soon later, we're hit with the point of no return with the death of Tess, and Joel and Ellie officially head on their journey. After that, the game goes from there. I won't recap it, but you get the point. The setup is exactly like that of the first act of a movie or the pilot episode of a series, because that's The Last of Us. It is a movie, it is a series, but one that you get to interact with. And now HBO and Naughty Dog want to just remake it? You guys sure do sound a lot like another company that likes remaking shit in live action without adding anything new to the plot or its characters that wasn't already there. So let's talk about it. Neil Druckmann has said that The Last of Us TV series will follow the plot of the first game with elements from the sequel. But why? Why? The Last of Us is such a raw and engrossing experience revolving around an incredibly engaging story. So why in the fuck would you just make it again? Yes, the demographic of people who watch TV and movies is likely greater than those who play video games, and thus, The Last of Us can grow its fan base via this show. But that all depends on how this show is marketed and how many people plan on buying HBO just to watch it. So it's very unlikely that profit margins are what the show is aiming for. Instead, it seems very apparent that this show is being made with passion and care, which blows my fucking mind. Why would you make something that will follow a story already beautifully told while only adding a few new things? Why not make something new and really flex those creative muscles? Disney does it because they like money, but at least Mulan looks drastically different than the animated counterpart. The Assassin's Creed movie is horrendous. Nobody would disagree with that, but it didn't adapt Connor or Ezio or Arno. Instead, it introduced a new assassin and tried to make a canonical movie that would tie into the video games, a spin-off. That's a pretty smart idea. The Uncharted movie I used to be incredibly against, and I still kind of am, is actually going to be a prequel to the games and become part of the canon and part of Nathan Drake's story, instead of just a movie that adapts one of the games. These are much better options than just taking a story already told and lazily putting it in live action. The world of The Last of Us lends itself to spin-offs and even some prequels. Maybe show us what Joel and Tommy did in the 20-year gap. The game alludes to it and makes it sound really intriguing.
You want some gear? Sure. But I ain't taking that girl off your hands.
This is how you gonna repay me, huh?
Repay you?
For all those goddamn years I took care of us.
Took care. That's what you call it? I got nothing but nightmares from those years.
You survived because of me.
It wasn't worth it.
So, you kill a lot of innocent people? We'll take that as a yes.
Take it however you want.
Or even better, show us how other people around the world handled the apocalypse. What did Russia do when the infected came? How about Australia? Show us the founding and formation of the Fireflies. What about a semi-anthology series where every episode is a different person's apocalyptic story, like the World War Z book? The possibilities are virtually endless. The world the game sets up is expansive and has so much potential for interesting and incredible stories, but Naughty Dog seems to refuse to give the spotlight to anybody except Joel and Ellie, and I'd be lying if I said that didn't piss me off. We don't need a Last of Us cinematic universe, and I definitely don't want the franchise to get milked. But when you're given the opportunity to make a TV show based on one of the greatest video games ever made, and you decide to just remake the game itself, but as a TV show, it comes off as incredibly lazy and uninspired. Time and time again, video games prove to be fickle things to turn into successful adaptations. Marcus, over at the Cosmonaut Variety Hour, made a really great video about it, so I don't want to go too much into it. But I will say this, video games are more cinematic than ever, and it seems that more and more of them have a greater focus on story and world building. I'm not crediting this to The Last of Us though, so don't think I am. And I'm also not saying that video games having a focus on narrative is something new. It really isn't. But from the new God of War, to Uncharted, to Spider-Man, to Doom, to Red Dead Redemption, to Days Gone, to Control, and even more after that, games are taking a turn to tell elongated stories and create new and exciting universes filled with lore. But I strongly feel that these stories and worlds should remain as video games, as their own separate medium. Adapting a book to live action gives an audience a chance to see a world brought to life. Watching Harry Potter after reading the novels will fill a viewer with awe and amazement, seeing such a fantastical world be brought to the real one. As a middle schooler, I read the Divergent series and the Hunger Games books, and then I watched the movies, and I was in awe of seeing the worlds and the characters all brought to life. Granted, most of those movies are terrible, but I was a stupid middle schooler, so whatever. Adapting a comic book can be done faithfully, in the vein of Watchmen, or it can be done in a way of telling a new and original story, like that of the MCU. Either way, it gives an audience a way of seeing these characters and these stories brought to life right before their eyes. Video games create worlds and characters that a player can live in, interact with, and enjoy in a semi-endless way. Want to slaughter demons and monsters like a badass? Play Doom. Want to be a superhero with a magic gun? Play Control. Video games offer escapism in a way movies and TV simply can't, and I feel like those mediums just do better separately. A movie or a show expanding on a world or characters introduced in a video game could be very interesting if done properly, so why adapt it? It is the pure definition of lazy. Why do I need a movie or a TV show about the journey of Kratos and Atreus? I've played God of War. It's amazing. And if I feel like that's a journey I want to go on again, I will. It doesn't need to be lazily recreated for a different medium. The Last of Us is a journey worth going on several times over. I played the game 6 times, and I intend to play it again before the second one comes out. But I don't need a TV show adaptation of it where very little will be altered or added. This doesn't come from a place of hate for a show that hasn't come out yet. It comes from a place of love for one of the best video game experiences I have ever had.